We have always lived in the castle by Shirley Jackson. The Blackwood Sanctuary. The Blackwood Sanctuary. Maricat Blackwood, with her head held high, walked briskly past the fence that marked the boundary of the Blackwood property on Blackwood Road. The fence, a wire barrier erected by their father, enclosed the land like a protective embrace, shielding them from the outside world. It was here, amidst the dense woods that whispered secrets only they could understand, that the Blackwood estate stood as a sanctuary, a secluded refuge from the hostile villagers who had always despised the Blackwood name. As she passed, the Donnell children, a group of unruly siblings known for their mischief, hurled their taunts from beyond the fence. Their words, meant to wound, fell away unheard as Maricat reached the gate and secured the padlock with a satisfying click. "Safe," she whispered to herself, a small smile playing on her lips, affirming the solace they found within these walls. Inside, the house was alive with the soft clinking of rose-colored cups and silver dishes as Constance set the tea table. The golden valance over the high windows caught the afternoon light, bathing the room in a warm glow. Uncle Julian, ensconced in his armchair, was surrounded by stacks of papers, his mind adrift in the sea of the past. Maricat, taking her seat in the small chair in the corner, broke the comfortable silence. "Constance, have you ever dreamed of leaving this place? Of finding a world beyond the fence where we could be free from their scorn?" Constance paused, her gaze lifting from the tea, set to meet Maricat's inquiring eyes. "And go where, Maricat? To face the villagers' judgment?" "No, not to face them," Maricat replied, her frown deepening, "but to discover a place untouched by gossip, where the Blackwood name could mean something new." Uncle Julian's chuckle, tinged with melancholy, filled the room. "Free? We are tethered to our legacy, my dear. The weight of the Blackwood name is not so easily cast aside." "But we could attempt it," Maricat persisted, her voice a determined whisper. Constance settled onto the rose sofa beneath their mother's watchful portrait. "We have our sanctuary here, where we are meant to be. The villagers may never comprehend, and that is their loss. We have each other, and this house, our sanctuary, is more than mere walls and floors. It's the essence of our world." Maricat nodded, her gaze lingering on the intricate patterns of the rose brocade. If only Uncle Julian could escape those haunting memories. Constance's hand found Maricat's, a gentle touch that bridged their shared solitude. "We each harbor our ghosts, Maricat. Some linger more stubbornly than others, yet together we can confront them." As twilight approached, casting elongated shadows across the polished floors, the Blackwood sisters sat enveloped in contemplation. The house, with its locked gates and gleaming surfaces, stood resolute, a testament to their endurance and a bastion against the encroaching dusk. Whispers of the past. The morning sun struggled through the thick curtains of the Blackwood house as Maricat entered Uncle Julian's room. The air was heavy with the scent of old books, a musty aroma that mingled with the faint trace of gardenias from the vase on the windowsill. Uncle Julian sat in his armchair, the rustle of yellowed papers, and the soft creak of his chair filling the room as he moved amidst the stacks of open journals. "Good morning, Uncle Julian," Maricat greeted, her voice soft but clear. Uncle Julian looked up, his eyes reflecting a mix of recognition and distant thoughts. "Ah, Mary Catherine, you're here. These papers, they whisper of days long gone, of the day of the tragedy." Maricat nodded, taking a seat beside him. "You talk about it a lot, Uncle. Does it not trouble you?" Uncle Julian's fingers paused on the rim of a faded photograph. "Trouble me? Perhaps. But it's more than that. It's a reminder of where we've been, what we've endured. It's a thread that binds us to the fabric of this world, however frayed it may become." A gentle clinking announced Constance's arrival with a tray of tea and toast. "You shouldn't dwell on such things, Uncle. It's a beautiful day outside." Uncle Julian accepted the tea with a grateful smile. "You're right, my dear. Yet these memories, they cling to me, not unlike the ivy to the old stone walls." Maricat watched as Constance set the tray down and took a seat on the other side of Uncle Julian. "But we have overcome much, haven't we? The shadows of the village no longer reach our doorstep." Uncle Julian sipped his tea, his gaze lost in the past. "Yes, we have overcome, but the memories, they are like ghosts haunting the corners of this house." Constance reached out, placing her hand over his. "We have each other, and that's all that matters. We'll keep the past where it belongs." Maricat stood up, her eyes determined. "I'll make sure of it. I'll protect us from anything that Triesto break through." Her voice was firm, echoing slightly in the quiet room. "No more shadows will creep into the sanctuary we call home." As she spoke, a faint breeze stirred the curtains, casting dancing shadows across the floor. It was as if the house itself was responding, acknowledging the weight of her words. The whispers of the past may linger, but the resolve of the living was a force to be reckoned with. Together they would guard the fragile peace they had built within these walls, against the echoes of yesterday and the unknowns of tomorrow. Sense of foreboding. Maricat Blackwood's steps slowed as she approached the creek, her eyes drawn to a nest of baby snakes writhing in the mud. She felt a chill run through her, an instinctive reaction to these creatures that seemed to slither straight from the depths of a dark omen. With a sense of unease, she continued on her way back to the house. There, she discovered a breach in their protective barrier. Her father's book, once nailed to a tree as a powerful ward against intruders, now lay discarded on the ground. The tree had fallen, taking with it their sense of safety. "Constance!" Maricat called out as she entered the kitchen, her voice laced with worry. "The book has fallen. Our father's charm is broken." Constance, busy preparing dinner, turned with a concerned expression. "We'll find another way, Maricat. Something even more powerful." Maricat nodded, but her heart remained heavy. She knew their charms and rituals were fragile things, easily shattered by the wrong person. The following day, their cousin, Charles, arrived. Maricat watched from the window as he approached, his suitcase in hand and a smile that failed to reach his eyes. Charles was the son of their late uncle, Arthur, and this was not his first visit. Maricat recalled his previous attempts to insert himself into their lives, his greedy eyes assessing their home and possessions. "He's not staying, is he?" Maricat asked, her voice tight with apprehension. Constance, standing beside her, frowned. "We can't turn him away, Maricat. Not family." But Maricat was adamant. "He'll bring chaos, mark my words." As the days passed, Charles settled in, and Maricat's unease grew. She caught him trying to access Uncle Julian's locked desk, his smooth excuses failing to mask his true intentions. "He's after our possessions, Constance," Maricat said, her voice shaking. "He wants what's ours." Constance squeezed her hand reassuringly. "As long as we're together, we're safe." Yet Maricat couldn't shake the foreboding that clung to her like a shadow. Charles's presence felt like a storm cloud on the horizon, bringing with it the promise of destruction. She knew that their peaceful existence was under threat, and she feared the darkness that loomed ahead. The cousins' arrival. The morning sun cast a golden hue over the Blackwood estate as Maricat watched from the window. Today, it brought Cousin Charles, an uninvited guest, causing ripples in their calm life. Charles stood at the door with a suitcase and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hello, Constance," he greeted. "It's been so long, Charles. What brings you here?" she asked, leading him into the parlor where Uncle Julian sat surrounded by his papers. "I've come to see how my favorite relatives are doing," Charles replied, his gaze taking in the room. Maricat watched from behind a curtain, her fingers clutching the fabric. She didn't trust this man who wore their father's face but carried the air of a stranger. Jonas, her cat, hissed softly from his perch on the windowsill. Charles noticed the cat and chuckled. "And who is this fine creature?" Constance answered, "That's Jonas, Maricat's faithful companion. He's not used to strangers." Charles nodded. "I hope to make friends with him too," he said, looking for Maricat. "And where's the young Maricat? I was hoping to see her." Maricat stepped out, her gaze wary. "I'm here," she said. Charles turned to her with a smile. "Ah, there you are. You've grown since I last saw you," he remarked. Maricat didn't move closer. "Why are you here, Charles?" "To be part of the family again," Charles replied, his eyes glinting with something Maricat couldn't quite understand. "I've missed you all." Uncle Julian, who had been silent, now spoke up. "You resembled John so much," he said, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "But why now? After all these years?" Charles sat down, his manner casual. "I've always wanted to come, Uncle. But life, it gets in the way, you know." Maricat felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't believe him. There was something about Charles that didn't sit right with her. She resolved to keep a close eye on him, to protect her family, their home, and their way of life. Tensions rise. The Blackwood house had always been a place of quiet routines and whispered secrets, but the arrival of Cousin Charles shattered the silence like a stone through glass. Maricat watched him from her corner, her eyes narrow slits of suspicion. He moved through their home with a clumsy arrogance, touching their father's things, his heavy footsteps an unwelcome echo in the halls. "Constance," Maricat whispered one evening as they prepared dinner, "he's changing everything." Constance, ever the peacemaker, laid a gentle hand on Maricat's shoulder. "He's just trying to help in his own way," she said softly. But Maricat wasn't convinced. She saw the way Charles looked at their silver, the way he smiled too sweetly at Constance, and the way he ignored Uncle Julian's ramblings about the past. It was during one of Uncle Julian's attempts to recount the family history that Charles's impatience boiled over. "Not now, Julian," Charles snapped, cutting through the old man's story. "We've heard it all before." Uncle Julian's face crumpled, and Maricat felt a surge of protectiveness. "You have no right to speak to him that way," she hissed, her voice barely louder than the crackling fire. Charles turned his sharp gaze on her. "And you, little girl, should learn your place in this house," he retorted coldly. Maricat's fingers clenched into fists, her nails digging into her palms. "My place is to protect this family," she declared, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. "You are the one who doesn't belong." Charles scoffed, turning away to hide the flash of anger in his eyes. "We'll see about that," he muttered under his breath. That night, Maricat lay awake, her mind racing with dark thoughts. She could hear Charles's snores through the thin walls, a constant reminder of the threat he posed. She knew she had to act, to do something to keep Constance and Uncle Julian safe from this intruder who had disrupted their peaceful existence. In the days that followed, the tension in the Blackwood house grew thicker, like a fog that refused to lift. Charles's attempts to charm Constance became more desperate, his conversations with Uncle Julian more strained. And Maricat, feeling the weight of her family's safety on her shoulders, retreated further into her world of rituals and charms, hoping against hope that they would be enough to protect them all. Devastation unleashed. The Blackwood house was silent, a stark contrast to the chaos that was about to unfold. Maricat was in the garden, burying a small, odd-shaped stone as part of her protective rituals when she smelled smoke. Her heart raced as she dashed inside, calling out, "Constance!" "Uncle Julian." Constance appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes wide with fear. "Maricat, I smell it too. What's happening?" Before Maricat could answer, Charles burst through the front door, his face flushed with panic. "Fire! The study's ablaze. It must have been the faulty wiring I noticed earlier. Uncle Julian, frail and confused, clutched his papers to his chest. My notes, my life's work, he murmured, as the flames licked the edges of his room. Maricat grabbed Constance's hand. We need to get out now. The sisters hesitated, torn between the danger and Charles's plea. It was then that the villagers, who had been watching the house with suspicion for days, arrived, their shouts filling the air. Let it burn, a woman's voice screeched. Jim Donnell, a man known to the sisters, picked up a rock and hurled it through the window. That'll help the fire along, he sneered. The crowd's laughter was a bitter sound as the Blackwood home, once a sanctuary, was consumed by flames. Maricat's eyes stung with tears, not from the smoke but from the sight of her world crumbling. We have to leave now, she insisted, pulling Constance away from the engulfing fire. Charles, now clutching a bag filled with family heirlooms and legal documents, yelled over the roar of the flames, I'll get help! But as he disappeared into the night, neither sister believed they would see him again. Outside, the mob's anger was palpable. The witch's house is burning, they cried, their voices a mix of fear and satisfaction. Constance, trembling, looked to Maricat. Where will we go? The night air was cold as they stepped into the darkness, the moon offering little comfort. Maricat's gaze fell upon the charred remains of their beloved home, the smoke still rising like a ghostly reminder of what they had lost. We'll find a way, together, Maricat said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. Hand in hand they walked down the road, their eyes fixed on the uncertain path ahead. The silence of the night enveloped them, broken only by the crackling of the dying fire and the distant shouts of the mob, now fading into the background of their tumultuous escape. Facing the mob. Maricat Blackwood's heart raced as she gazed through the cracked window, witnessing the angry mob outside. Their faces contorted with rage as they hurled insults at the Blackwood house. Constance, Maricat whispered, come away from there. Constance, clutching the curtains, tore her gaze from the hostile crowd. Together they fled through the back door, the mob's shouts and the shattering of glass echoing in their ears. They ran hand in hand into the dark maze of the woods, stumbling over roots and rocks. Constance, breathless, looked to Maricat for answers. Maricat, her voice steady despite her fear, explained, they don't understand us, but we'll find refuge. A new beginning. Just us. They paused, hidden by the trees, and watched as their beloved home was engulfed in flames. Tears flowed down Constance's cheeks, while Maricat's gaze remained resolute. Their escape into the woods symbolized their determination to forge a new path, to rebuild their lives away from the hatred and misunderstanding of the villagers. As the night enveloped them, the sisters pressed on, the woods offering a silent sanctuary from the chaos they left behind. Maricat led Constance deeper into the forest, where the canopy of leaves whispered secrets of a world untouched by the villagers' scorn. They found solace in the embrace of the ancient trees, their roots a testament to the endurance of nature. In the heart of the woods they came upon a clearing bathed in moonlight, a serene space that seemed to welcome them. Here, Maricat declared, they would lay the foundation for their new life, one where the past could not reach them. Constance, her spirit bolstered by Maricat's unwavering resolve, nodded in agreement. They would not let the fire define their destiny. Together, they would rise from the ashes, their bond unbreakable, their spirits indomitable. The chapter closes with the sisters hand in hand stepping into the clearing, their silhouettes merging with the silver glow of the moon. Rebuilding resilience. The morning after the fire, Constance and Maricat stood amidst the remnants of their once grand home. The sun cast an eerie light on the charred remains, but their spirits remained unwavering. They had survived, and now they would rebuild. We'll start afresh, Maricat, Constance said, her voice steady despite the devastation around them. We'll salvage what we can and make this place ours again. Maricat nodded, her eyes taking in the extent of the damage. The night had passed in a blur of shock and exhaustion, but now, in the crisp morning air, they faced the reality of their loss. As they ventured further into the house, they noticed the heavy silence that enveloped them. The fire had not only taken their possessions but also left an eerie stillness in its wake. The sisters decided to begin their rebuilding efforts in the living room, hoping to restore a sense of comfort and familiarity. They swept away the debris, revealing the hardwood floors beneath. Constance found a faded rug, slightly singed at the edges, and placed it carefully in the center of the room. They righted overturned furniture and hung salvaged curtains over the broken windows, creating a semblance of privacy. While working, they spoke of their memories, cherishing the fragments of their past that the fire could not take away. "Do you remember the summer picnics we used to have on the front lawn?" Constance asked, a faraway look in her eyes. Maricat smiled at the recollection, her heart warming at the memory of happier times. As they worked, a new challenge presented itself in the form of a stray dog that had wandered into the village. It approached them cautiously, its fur matted and its ribs showing. Constance's heart went out to the creature, and she offered it a piece of bread. The dog devoured it hungrily, and from that moment on, it stayed by their side, as if sensing their need for companionship. Despite their resilience, the emotional toll of the fire weighed on the sisters. Constance found herself waking up in the middle of the night, her heart pounding as she relived the terrifying moments of the blaze. Maricat struggled with her own demons, her eyes often drifting to the spot where the family heirloom had once hung, now reduced to ashes. They leaned on each other for support, their bond strengthening as they faced adversity together. In the days that followed, they learned of Charles's fate. He had been found wandering the woods, disoriented and muttering incoherently. The legal documents he had taken were nowhere to be found, and his whereabouts remained a mystery. The sisters speculated that he had fled, unable to face the consequences of his actions. As they continued to rebuild, the sisters transformed their charred house into a sanctuary once more. The living room became a cozy haven, with salvaged furniture arranged by the fireplace. Constance planted a small garden, filling it with vibrant flowers that added a touch of life and color to their surroundings. They cooked simple meals in their makeshift kitchen, using the few pots and pans that had survived the fire. Each day they worked side by side, their determination unwavering. The stray dog, now a loyal companion, kept watch over them as they toiled, offering a sense of protection and comfort. Together they were rebuilding not just a house, but a home filled with new memories and a sense of peace.